Now, during our previous lecture, we talked about biostatistics, somehow introduction, where we were handling data collection and tabulation. So here we want to proceed to data presentation, and this is equally important. So we want to look at what is this thing called data presentation. So this is generally giving data a desired form. Yeah. So presentation of data requires skills and understanding of data. So presentation of data must first consider whether data is ungrouped and or grouped. So this is basically where the understanding aspect is coming in. The ways used to present data include bar charts, pie charts, histogram, frequency polygon, scatter polygon, box plot, line chart, run chart, etc. The many others. They are basically charts and graphs and plots and so on and so forth. So these methods help in adding the visual aspect to data, which make it much more comfortable and easy to handle. Okay, so why do we do data presentation? This is actually a deal maker or a deal breaker business, where someone would do a lot of hard work, but if they fail to properly present it, they lose a lot. Okay, or they can impress their decision makers by doing proper presentation. So you know most of this data done involves some stage of presentation, maybe before clients and or decision makers and so on and so forth. So you need to work on this and do something quite well. So to get the job done, especially while dealing with clients or higher authorities, presentation matters. Let that get into consideration. Now, no one is willing to spend hours, okay, trying to understand what can quickly be presented by the author, so that that is actually the space taken by presentation. Make work simple for those who are supposed to consume the outcome of your research. Okay, now it is thus essential to have clarity on what data presentation is. Now, as a tool of data presentation, you want to look at tables. For example, this is basically involving data put in rows and columns, as you can see in our example here. And this is best with small data sets. Okay. For example, number of discharges in a month by consultant. Okay. It is advantageous because you can see all data there. It's so direct, precise, to the point. The issue would be difficulties in interpreting or seeing patterns. You can find it very hard to see a pattern in the outcomes. Yeah, they also have very little focus on visual impression. You look at that and you are like not very much motivated, but much more can be done to make it look better here. A pie chart, for example, shows data as percentage of the whole. In the construction of pie charts, you realize that we work with the total angle with respect to the total of the data that is used. In this case, we are supposed to work with up to 7 categories for proper visualization, so that we don't have too much crowded pie charts, which make it very hard now to see trends and understand what is presented. Now, simple and quick, that is one of the good that is obtained from pie chart. Simple and quick to show proportions, and then require minimal additional explanation. Yeah, but the total represented by the chart is normally difficult to see just by looking at the chart itself. You may not find a place where totals are included when you're dealing with pie chart. Okay. Now, what about bar charts? These are basically data put in separate columns. Okay, data put in separate columns that should be used for comparison between discrete categories, e.g. patients on a caseload by town. So you can see how that data category can be represented or presented in bar charts. There are several advantages to these charts because this is actually mostly used in health field. Yeah, it shows scale of the categories, displays relative numbers or proportions of the multiple categories, summarizes the large data set in visual form, clarifies trends better than we can find in tables. Yeah, estimate key values at a glance. Yeah, can help you do this estimation by just looking at the chart. Okay, and we can also have the disadvantages associated with this kind of plot. This is a common plot actually. If you look at statistical data presentation, you realize that bar charts are commonly used. Okay, and as you can see, it looks good. So the disadvantages involves the problems of interpretation when you reorder these bars. Okay, and then we also need some additional explanation to understand. You can't just get to the bar then you start saying that this is what we have. So you need to be guided through to understand the trends, the access, what we have by the bars themselves, and so on and so forth. Yes, again, they fail to expose key assumptions, causes, impacts, and patterns. Now, what about histogram? Histogram in this case indicates plots of continuous data with no gaps between the columns. Okay, so this is more of a comparison what we have in bar charts, but now in this case we don't have gaps between the bars. This should be used for any data where there are no gaps between the categories. Now, the general purpose of histogram is to present an easily understood summary about certain data. Okay, and it is simply a bar chart with no gaps, as I've said earlier. So this is actually how a histogram look like. This is a very simple one, very simplified one. You can see there are no gaps between the bars, and therefore we can tell some kind of interrelation between these bars themselves. Yeah, so there is continuity of data categories as indicated by the graph, but then the challenge is that data is grouped, so cannot see individual data. It's hard to see the marked individual data. Okay, too many blocks can make analysis difficult, while too few can leave out important data. So that's basically what we need, is to look at this. When you have this kind of plot, if you have so many of the bars, you may find it difficult to make analysis. Well, if there are also too few, then you may think someone just shaded a region. It leaves out a very important aspect of your data. Now, box and whisker it's also a statistical way of presenting data. As you can see from this section here, you must have met this in some other circumstances. But then we also have to look at the aspect that it includes median values, range. Maybe someone will be asking, how do you get to do some of these things? It's easier to find step-by-step explanation of how they are achieved, and we can use computer program like Excel to arrive at this. So it's easy to do this by computer. You don't have to take papers and graphs to start doing the drawing of box and whisker and so on and so forth. This should be used for grouped data that has some spread. Okay, so the good thing with box and whisker is that they give average and spread in one picture. You can tell that. Now, the problem could be the difficulty in explaining what we have, because you can't come as a new member of the world of statistics. Then you look at it, then you can make conclusions out of it. You must be guided. Someone must present this work before you, so that you can understand what it talks about. Okay. What about a scatterplot? This is very important presentation of data when we involve a number of sets, okay, data sets. So we say scatterplot displays all data in a single plot. Okay, we have a set from contributing set, and all this gets the two coordinate plot, which is very important. So what do we have? The two coordinates for this date, this date, and so on and so forth. So this is very important for having multiple data set presentation. And now it shows all data points including outliers. That's an advantage. And then can highlight correlation. Correlation is basically some kind of a trend that is witnessed between the sets themselves. Now the disadvantage here could be some problem with interpretation, which can be subjective. That is, you tend to give an interpretation based on a given set or aspect of data, and then fail to tell the relationship between that interpretation with the rest. And then we also have issues again with correlation, which does not mean causation. Okay. Now a line chart plots data in order and joins them with a line. Okay, so this actually are good when you are trying to relate a pattern of data over time, you know. So as time changes, you have your values. Then you end up with a very wonderful plot here, which can take various sets depending on what your survey entails. So we can see all data points in this kind of plot. It is simple to look at. Yeah, we can see multiple data sets. Yeah, the biggest disadvantage here is that data must have an order. If not, you will find issues with giving specific data for specific time. That makes it difficult for using line chart. Now a run chart actually is a line chart plus a median. You can see this kind of plot here tells us something about a value, a medial value that is obtained from the data that we have plotted here. So this is more of a development from a line chart, that where we are now including a medial plot. Okay, this should be used for data over time to look for trends or any changes. It is easy to interpret with clear trends, have good visual impression, but cannot be used for unordered categories. That is true. So our next study will be measures of central tendency, and we hope that by that time we will be making better progress with our studies. Thank you.